Good afternoon. I've been asked a lot of times about why I stopped working for Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, and all the others. Began freelancing in the 80s. I worked for Pacific and Eclipse first, a whole bunch of companies during the black and white boom, and they've since come and gone. All sorts of art, stories, pinups, covers. I worked for Fantagraphics. Sorry, it's hot in here today. And and then about uh, some point I got married about 23 years ago now, and needed to think about steady work and stuff. Um, but right before I got married, I had done work for Steve Bissett's magazine called Taboo, and while I used many styles in that magazine, the one that seemed to hit the most was this sort of photorealistic style where I did take photographs, built models, all sorts of things to create a certain naturalistic, realistic look, which for that particular type of story, I mean, it's not Edgar Rice Burroughs, it's a contemporary sort of urban thing with buildings, rooms, cars, people talking, and in a situation like that, you've got to nail the details. You've got to get the costuming and the hairdos. You got to make it naturalistic, and I had spent a lot of years studying Apartment 3G by Alex Kotsky, who was basically the master of that stuff. And if you know anything about Kotsky, it consumed him. It's all he ever did. It's all he ever worked on, keeping that feel to that strip. He was just in the attic slaving away on his artwork constantly. So anyway, doing Throat Sprockets, this story for Taboo, put me on the map. They reviewed it in the Comics Journal, prestigious intellectual thing. They discussed the plot and showed the art, and never mentioned the art. It's like, thanks, fellas. And but anyway, um, that is why I believe Dark Horse came to me. They were doing books, adapting works by Andrew Vax, who's a writer, New York lawyer who works with child abuse cases, child pornography rings, and things like that. And they asked me if I would do it, and it was steady work, and I said okay. And I had an editor. I did talk to Vax on the phone at one time. There was a strange sort of implicit atmosphere around the entire project where it's basically, this isn't just a comic book, this is against child pornography. And it's like, okay, well, I was already against child pornography, but the intimation was just like, if you're not with us, you're against us, you're with the pedophiles, which perhaps they didn't mean that to come across that way, but in a way it did. But at any rate, I went ahead and began the project, and it was a huge, huge undertaking. Um, Again, I modeled a lot of the stuff myself, took photographs, but went a lot further than I had with the work for Taboo. I sculpted heads of the main characters so that even if I used my body and costumes for the characters, I could insert head shots that were completely unique, and I could control the lighting on them in a photographic, very realistic, photorealistic way. So I built those. I also constructed miniature sets. I made an office room, which at this point, I can't even remember what the scene was or how I used it. I created a hallway, I remember, and I used cutout figures for placement and lighting and things like that. Really, in a way, what I was doing was like running a film set and bringing in actors and having sets and props and all that stuff. And that's kind of what you had to do, what I felt I had to do in order to capture that photorealistic quality. And I also worked on Craft Tint Duo Shade board, which has two different gray tones in it, which you sort of unlock by brushing on clear chemicals. I don't even know if they sell the stuff anymore these days, but it was used a lot in the comic industry at one point, Mad Magazine used a lot of. It's basically you got a set of lines going this way, and then if the other ones overlap, then you get a darker tone. So you may already know what that medium is. But what else did I build? I built city street scenes. And these were for some of the night shots. They were for specific scenes. I didn't feel so bad putting all that energy into building these things because I knew I could use them later. And I knew I would learn a lot from them. I wouldn't have to necessarily go back and do it again. And there again, you know, I could have used photographs of actual street scenes, but you can't control things. You can't control the light sources. You can't control the traffic, the signage, or anything like that. On some of these buildings, I created signage, and I also did things like put bricks on the building faces. These bricks were the exact correct size of bricks. I measured everything. Measured the height of windows, doors, stories in the building, and again the bricks. Used a burnishing tool or something to create indentations in the paper to make it, not the paper, the illustration board to make it look like bricks. God, why did I do all that? It was insane. So I went to all that trouble and was cranking my way through this thing. I was like, man, this thing is gonna, you know, hopefully knock people dead, help my career, help my new family, get some stability, all that sort of stuff. I can't remember my editor's name at Dark Horse, which is probably a good thing. I'm probably blanking it out. But one day I got a call from Dark Horse. I was about halfway through this project. It was 180 pages. The novel was based on, it was called Bluebell. And it was very dark, gritty New York thing with crime and sex, prostitution, pornography, kidnappings, murders, stuff like that. Very pleasant stuff. And the phone call, I talked to this person at Dark Horse, and they said, oh, your editor's not here anymore. You'll be dealing with me now. And I said, okay, where did he go? And they said, oh, we can't talk about that. But long story short, when I was creating the pages in pencil, my editor was following orders and showing them to Andrew Vax, and Andrew Vax was giving the okay, and then back to me, I would finish them, ink them, do the tones and everything, and then be paid for them. So this income was supporting my family at the time. So anyway, this fellow said, oh, and by the way, it turns out that so-and-so, whatever his name was, Jerry Prosser. Yeah, Jerry Prosser. Hi, Jerry. So Jerry Prosser never showed anything to Andrew Vax. So we're going to show him everything you've done so far and see what he says. So then what happened was Vax wanted to have some changes made. You know, I guess it's understandable. I never knew what the changes were. I don't know what difference it would have made, really. I told the story and everything. But the people at Dark Horse said, oh, well, we can't afford to pay you extra to do these changes, whatever they are. So we're just not doing the project. So this essentially was like having the rug pulled out from under me. I was halfway through this project, had a lot more money to earn. I'd been working on it for close to 2 years, so I'd lost all my connections in the comic industry. I hadn't been talking to anyone. Heck, I thought I had a regular gig, you know. So anyway, they shit-canned the project, and it was the darkest, after that, the darkest 2 years of my life, trying to dig my way out of that money hole. And after that, I was angry, and I said, never again will I put my security, my livelihood, and that of my family in the hands of people, a company where the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And was anyone at fault? Was it someone's fault? Well, yeah, I dropped a couple names in there. You know, I mean, you can figure out who's at fault. But you know, never be 100% sure. Never be, you know, always have a backup plan. Always have a backup plan. So anyway, I carried those pages around for years and years and years, big ass stack of them, and they were extremely heavy. I was sick of looking at them. I just put them in the back of the closet or something. And then back around 2004 or 5, I said, I'm just going to put these on eBay and just to hell with it. So I auctioned them, and you'll never guess who bought them. It was Todd McFarlane. And after he won the auction, it was a pretty sizable price if I remember, he wrote to me and said, hey, I'd like to re-dialogue these and print them as a sort of a new thing, a new noir detective project or something. And I said some very insulting things to him, which I'm sorry for. And I said, if you do, I'll sue you. Because at the time I just wanted it to disappear. But at any rate, if Todd McFarlane, if you still have those pages, please do whatever you like with them. I hope you understand my feelings about it. It was nothing you did or said.